This is a basic look at solar power for the person who doesn't know too much about it, but is wondering if it's something they ought to look into. I am an electrical engineer, and over the past few years I have experimented with a lot of various kinds of solar power systems. During that time I have watched the solar electric industry change, mostly for the better. For me, this all started several years ago when I was trying to find a way to get some electrical power out to my detached garage. There were no wires running over there, and I thought it would sure be nice if I could just go out there some evening and turn on some lights and maybe run some small power tools, things like that. Well, I bought a deep cycle battery, a 100-watt solar panel, and a small 120-volt standalone inverter. My plan was just to let that solar panel charge the battery all day, and that way I could have some power when I needed it, running off the battery and the inverter. It wasn't very much power. I couldn't run a large table saw or anything like that, but it worked pretty well for a while until the battery wore out, which didn't take long because I failed to use a charge controller. The solar panel simply overcharged the battery over a period of time, and it soon failed. Well, I tried to do a little better than that after the battery failed, and soon this turned into a hobby. When I first started investing in this little hobby, solar panels were expensive. Equipment was scarce and costly when you could find it. I recall paying about $600 for the single 100-watt solar panel. I believe the 1200-watt inverter was about $400 or so, and the battery was about $100. Since then, this little hobby of mine has evolved from being a hobby sort of thing into a cost-effective way to significantly cut down my power bill without laying out a fortune to get there either. I have built up a system now that works quite well for me. It didn't really cost me as much money as you might expect. While it's true I have a significant advantage because of my engineering background, with the basic equipment that is commonly available now, though, most anyone with some limited techie skills can do this quite economically. If I tried to build up a system like the one I have now, say about 5 or 10 years ago, it would have cost me perhaps 5 times more just for the parts. I have learned a lot of practical things, many of them by trial and error, too many by doing something that looked good on paper but in reality just didn't work out very well. There were things that did work out quite well, though, and the point of this book is to pass along some of my experience and expertise so that you might not have to go through the experience of reinventing the wheel and finding out that it doesn't roll too well, like I did a few times. You don't have to be an engineer to understand this stuff, at least at a level to determine whether this is a good idea or not. It would help if you were somewhat techy, but I have tried to keep this whole thing out of the weeds and at a basic understanding level that should be helpful to most anyone. I hope you stick with me on this series of videos that I'm making about the little book that I wrote. The next installment is going to be about the very basics of solar power. Hope to see you then, and thanks for watching.